Hi there, fishing addicts. How have you been? I know it's been a while since I made my first upload to the YouTube, but I'll try to improve on that. These past few weeks wasn't that great for fishing because weather is constantly changing. You need to really adapt to the conditions. So I've decided to make a gear review. So about a year ago, I wanted to expand my fishing horizons and get my feet wet in the jigging, and I started looking for some rod. Now prior to that, I only had like heavy salmon rods and some moderate action rods, and none of them were capable doing the things I wanted to do. I wanted a little bit faster rod, lighter rod. Had actually two criteria in mind. One, that the rod had to be a little bit longer, between 8 and 9 feet, because I live like 200 meters away from the largest river in the country and I don't own any boat, so short rod wasn't an option for me. And second thing, I wanted to cover a wider range of casting weights because I was looking to the higher end JDM rods and those are pretty expensive. So I did my research online, went through all the stores in the city, and I finally landed on this. So this is a Tict IceCube ROCKIN Grand. It is 9 feet long, has a casting weight from 0.8 to 21 grams and line rating from 0.2 to 0.6 p. It comes in this sleeve. It is a two-part sleeve that separates both parts of your rod. That's really good because they're not rubbing against each other. One thing maybe they could have done, they could have make it out of like neoprene or something softer, because it's a little bit harsh, but it's not bad. This rod is made from 99% I think, or maybe even higher carbon. It is very dry, very responsive, very sensitive, has a good casting abilities. The guides on this rod is titanium guides with a thick insert. I'm not the biggest fan of these guides. I think they could have made them either bigger in diameter or make the torzite inserts, because you can really hear your line, especially if you're using a 0.6 p, the highest rating line for this rod. You can really hear it going through those small guides. The casting distance doesn't suffer from that, but it's not comfortable. You can feel the vibrations in your reel actually. So I moved from 0.6 to 0.4 p line, 8 braid, and it's way better. And I think 0.4 p is the best line for this rod. If you want to go thinner, you won't be able to comfortably fish with those higher weight lures, and if you're gonna go higher with 0.6 p, you won't be comfortable with the smaller weights and you will hear that terrible sound in your reel and your handle and your ears. So 0.4 p is the way to go, I think. This rod is 115 grams, and you need to know one thing, that 115 grams is without these weights. These weights are made for balancing your rod with your reel. It goes into the back of your handle. This is a 3-piece weight, 10 grams each, and you can balance your reel better with these. I don't use them. I use my rod with this Daiwa Certate. It's a 2015 or 16 model. It weighs 240 or 245 grams. It's still too light for this rod if you want to have a perfect balance. And I would need to use all 3 of these weights in the back of my handle to balance it perfectly, but I rather lose 30 grams of the weight than have a perfect balance, but that's just my opinion. Now, what do I like about this rod? I like the design. It's minimalistic, has very little details on it. It's just pure black and silver, and there's no wrappings around the guides, nothing to catch your eye. It's not splashy, let's say. Other thing I like about this rod, or maybe I should say I love about this rod, is the blank. This thing really surprised me. The thing is, when I tried it in the shop, when I got it home, in your hand it feels very stiff. You would think that you might lose some of those lighter fish or some more active fish that jump around a lot or something like that, just because the rod is so stiff. And it's not like that at all, because as soon as you hook up into the fish, it could be 100 gram or 3 kilo fish, doesn't matter, the whole blank comes alive. This whole upper section bends. I'm not comfortable bending it in my arms, but I'll throw in a video of me catching a few fish for you, and you can see the bend in that rod, and that really surprised me. And I caught a lot of chub and trout and sea trout, the active fish that goes around the area a lot and tries to maneuver and jumps a lot, and I haven't lost one single fish with this rod. I haven't caught anything extra small, like 30-50 grams big, but I'm pretty comfortable I won't lose those fish too. All that being said, it still has a lot of power here in the back end, because this part practically doesn't bend at all. So that tells you there is still a lot of power here, and if you hook up into something like a bonus fish, I don't know, you can handle that fish pretty well, I think. Now, when it comes to the casting weights and sensitivity, 0.8 to 21 grams, well, it's accurate on the casting side, but using it properly, you can forget about 1-2 grams, I think, all the way up to like 5 grams maybe. I would say 5 grams is a starting weight for this rod, because those smaller weights, they just don't put enough pressure on your tip, and you're not feeling it in your fingers, in your hands. So I don't know where the manufacturers are getting those weights from, but it's not that accurate. 5 grams with something like 2.5 inch soft bait, that is the starting point for this rod. And 5 grams, you need a nice hard bottom to feel it, and I would say it goes pretty good until like 3 meters deep. If it's deeper, you lose that sensitivity, just because the rod is too stiff and too powerful for this kind of weight. 7 grams jig head with the bait around 2 or 3 inch, that is where this rod starts to shine, and it shines all the way to 21 grams, but 21 grams is the total weight of the whole bait. I tried this rod with something like this swim bait. It's 4-inch, I think, and it has a bigger tail, a bigger body, and I tried it with 16 grams, I think, and the bait itself weighs around 10 grams, and it was too much for this rod, because you can still throw it, you can animate it a little bit, but the tip gives up on these bigger weights. You can feel you're not lifting the bait from the bottom as quickly as you want, because the tip just gives in and it compensates a lot of that movement that you're doing with your rod. So if you want to go with bigger baits like this one that weighs around 10 grams, I would suggest you're using a jig head no more than 13 grams. I would say 13 grams is the total limit for this rod and the bait this big. This is a 3.5-inch soft lure. It weighs around 5 grams, maybe 6. You can throw it with like 16 grams and it will perform perfectly. The perfect range, I would say, is from 7 grams and something like 2.5-inch soft lures to like 15-16 grams and 3-inch lures that doesn't have big tails or massive bodies, that are not so stubborn. Other baits like crank baits or minnows, it deals very good with them. So the versatility part was spot on from my opinion. I can use it with these like 5 to 8 centimeters long baits, and it animates them perfectly, it throws them perfectly. I have no complaints with that at all. Like this Zebite comes in, it's 7 centimeters long. It's a perfect bait for this rod. I couldn't be more happier with it. Whom is this rod for? Well, I would say for someone like me who does a lot of shore fishing in the bigger rivers or lakes, and who wants to get into the JDM premium rods but don't want to break the bank at first. And it is versatile enough to cover 2 or 3 different rods. It is super sensitive and very responsive, and you will have a lot of fun fishing with this rod. Just keep in mind that the guides are pretty small, and I recommend you using 0.8 P line, and it has to be a good Japanese made 8 braid, because if you go with something cheaper, there's just no point in owning this rod and saving on the line. So that's my opinions about this rod. I hope next week I can show you something from the fishing, because it's getting warmer and warmer every day and I need to get out more. And I'll see you next week. Peace.